We call this meeting to order. I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Matt going to lead us.
Yes. Hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you want to remain standing, we'll have our invocation by Bobby Kapalau from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee with humble heart and hand this night and thank thee for the many blessings and tell thee of the gratitude that we have for thee, for our families and the safety in which we're allowed to live. We pray for our wonderful military that watches over us and the different dignitaries that see fit to give us the things that that we need, stand in need of at this time. Father, we love thee and we pray for this beautiful little community and all these desert communities that need thy tender loving care. We pray to be a tool in thy hand to do thy work and to bring things forth that need to come forth. Father, we love thee and we pray to thee and say these things humbly in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Where'd that come from? Councilmember Klink.
Here.
Councilmember Mintz.
Here.
Councilmember Scott.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bildering.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here.
All present.
No closed session announcements. Any changes to the agenda? None. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going on our website and clicking on the meeting agendas link. Awards, presentation, appointments, and proclamation. Got a presentation to 29 Palms High School girls softball team for their participation in Cash for Trash.
You get to speak.
Okay.
Introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Lexi. These are the rest of the girls on varsity.
Okay. First, I want to say thank you for what you've done for the community, cleaning up the desert and all the trash, putting it away, and all the large items that were out there. Can you tell us where you cleaned up?
We cleaned up on 2 Mile and Aztec. We picked up a whole truckload, bags full of trash, and even big branches that were in the way.
How many bags?
14.
Yeah. Who else helped?
Coach Mintz helped. We also had Coach Steve helped, and varsity girls helped as well.
Awesome. Congratulations, that's not in your big win. You can see out there.
Thank
Nice
you.
home run shot by you.
Thank you.
Here's from the Burtec,
Thank you so much.
and here's from the city. Thank you for everything you guys do. And
Thank you.
Miss Cindy will take a picture. Show your muscles.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a presentation by County of San Bernardino Board of Supervisor, Ms. Dawn Rowe. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. So I thought I would come and provide you an update on a few topics that we have going on at the county, some that will relate to the city and some that just kind of surround the city. So short-term vacation rental is a hot topic for all of us, certainly. The county is looking at, we revised our short-term vacation rental ordinance. So our first step was to have it in place. Once it was in place, we found out that there were some flaws with it. And so we brought it back, we modified it, and we had a lot of outcry from certain neighborhoods that had saturation and asked for a study. And so we are in the middle of that study. We expect it to be released in August, September timeframe, giving the board direction on a recommendation for potentially a cap that would, and how does that work? Is it by census tract? Is it by zip code? Is it by block? That's the challenging part. So any of us that have worked together, Frank and I beat our heads against the wall on how you do this appropriately and fairly. You don't want to change the rules on folks that have invested an awful lot of money. You don't want to take jobs away from those that are being able to provide for their families, but we do have affordable housing needs. We do have a desire to provide for our visitors, so it's an awful lot of balance. And we have passionate folks on both sides, those that have enjoyed rehabbing homes and turning them into vacation rentals, and those that are angry and frustrated at the loss of the neighborhoods, the change in the feel, what it does for traffic and trash and to our night skies, noise and trash, parking, all of those. And so we are in our phase of studying, should there be a cap, should there be a moratorium? You know, when you look at jurisdictions, we say, like Palm Springs had one that we were looking at mirroring, and if they say limit it to 2 in the jurisdiction, well, then that's a little bit hard. Does that mean you can only have 2 in Wonder Valley, or 2 in Joshua Tree, or 2 in Baker, or 2 in Lake Arrowhead? And it's a little bit more difficult when you're 20,000 square miles. And so the county is wrestling with how we do that. I had this great idea that wasn't so great. I'm like, oh, we could do it in community action plans. And then Wonder Valley became popular, and they're not a community action plan. So every time you think you get it figured out, something ebbs and flows and changes. And so we're still working on that. So this fall, we should hopefully have a report out on how we hope to address it better and what the recommendation is. We just certified our housing element for our general plan, and the housing needs in that and program 4 are also addressed as it relates to vacation rentals. So stay tuned for more information on that in the fall. Something that's near and dear to your heart tonight and mine is the funding for sewer. So wastewater and wastewater treatment. The County Board of Supervisors were each given an allocation of America Rescue Plan Act funding, and we were given the permission to spend the funds as we saw fit, because you have a very diligent and passionate city manager. He approached me and gave a plea for groundwater safety and said, hey, we could really use $1 million. So thank you, Frank, for bringing that project to me. It does have some timelines attached to it, but I think that things are moving ahead in a positive manner, and we are excited to have been able to help you with that. And so that's good news as it relates to our partnership with the city. Redistricting. So the 3rd supervisorial district that represents the city of 29 Palms in the census, when we look at the population and the distribution of population. There's a couple of things at the federal level and a couple of things at the state level that they ask us to take into consideration. All those things get churned. We appointed an independent redistricting commission that came back with a series of maps where they made recommendations for supervisorial district changes. And the map that was adopted has the 3rd district going from 3,900 square miles to just under 10,000 square miles. And so now this district that you are in, that I still represent you in, it has Havasu Landing, it goes Arizona, Nevada, all the way across and down the 40, Cadiz, Amboy. It has all of the Newberry Springs, Daggett, Yermo, Barstow, Lucerne Valleys, all of the Homestead Valley, Lucerne Valley. It goes up the 18, the backside to Big Bear, and then it has all the mountains all the way over to LA County. It does exclude Wrightwood, and it excludes Mount Baldy. And that has been exceptionally challenging for me to be able to serve. It used to be 11 cities, it's now 12 cities that are in there. And then it has the largest amount of unrepresented, unincorporated residents. So I have 109,000 residents that live in the unincorporated areas of the county that have no other representation. And so it's a challenge to get to be at all those areas. It's also the only supervisorial district that has mountains, desert, and valley. And our valley issues, some of them overlap to the desert, such as homelessness and things like that. But our desert issues, whether it's illegal cannabis or vacation rentals, are different than some of the other issues. Certainly snow play and keeping our mountain roads clear and vacation rentals are different issues for the mountains that are not true for the valleys. So it is unique. They did not give us any additional staff, nor did they give us any additional budget. And so we're stretched a little thin trying to serve all of our communities. And then you have the blizzard of 2023. And then to complicate that, the chairman of the board has certain responsibilities that I'm learning about with a new area of the mountain that got hammered and wiped out in the Crestline and Lake Arrowhead areas. And they're still digging themselves out of that with assistance from cooperators, County Fire, County Sheriff, CAL FIRE, and all of our other folks. So it is, it's a challenge to serve. I will be blessed if God intends me to do it for another 4 years, God willing, and if not, then I wish the next person well. I've committed to my family not to do it beyond another term, so if I'm elected for another term, you'll have me for another 5 years, and then we have to find somebody else to represent our communities out here, so be thinking about that. And let's see, Captain, have you given stats? Oh, Captain, fall on the spot. Operation Hammer Strike. Did you guys get year-end stats for that from the captain? Kind of, sort of? Yeah? Okay. I'll skip that. That was a lot of great goodness that came out of our partnership with the Sheriff's Department in the 3rd District. One of the other things I wanted to touch on tonight was our workforce development program. It's a neat program that's not very well known. It is for adults that are interested in careers or educational advancement. It is for displaced workers, and it's for youth age 16 to 24. And the county operates America's Job Centers of California, and it's located in multiple locations. So San Bernardino, Victorville, Rancho Cucamonga, and Barstow has a satellite office. It's resources for job seekers, for career planning, for resume writing, for job database, staff assistant placement, on-the-job training, vocational services. We're actually hiring somebody from the Morongo Basin to help in this program to work with placements. So they just need to live in the Morongo Basin. It pays very well. If anybody's interested, please let me know. And then for owners and businesses and employers, Workforce Development offers free human resource hotline, customized recruitment services, access to a large pool of screened job applicants, customized training that saves you 50% on your training needs and build your team, on the job training funds, and tax credit information. And if anybody knows Wanda Statham, she has gotten a hold of this program in Yucca, and she is championing it, and she loves it. So she is the executive director at the Chamber in Yucca, and she's really embraced this. So she's a good one to speak to all that it does for our workforce in need, but then our businesses also. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you, we used to have a Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council, and it's gone through various iterations under different supervisors. There used to be a MAC in Lucerne Valley, and then there was just a MAC in Joshua Tree. Under Supervisor Ramos's time, he had what they called the Big MAC, and he had representatives from Flamingo Heights, Yucca Mesa, all over, Joshua Tree, Wonder Valley. And then when I took over, we downsized it to, well, we still kept it the Big Mac, and then through redistricting, we stood it back up, and we had 5 openings. The MAC is still in existence, but I didn't get enough applicants from the respective communities that I thought were underrepresented to my office. So we have what's called Homestead Valley Community Councils, and I go to their meetings every month, and they have a series of communities that they represent west of you, but Joshua Tree isn't represented there, Wonder Valley is not, nor is Pioneer Town. And so I thought it would be an opportunity to recreate the MAC with those communities having representation. And I did not get enough applicants. And so we pivoted, and what we decided to do is to have a monthly open house at my office in Joshua Tree. So a lot of people wonder, how can they get in touch with our office? How can they have their needs met or express their community concerns? So every month, this next one is March 29th on a Wednesday. It starts at 4:30 and it will go until 6. It's at my office, which is at 6171 Sunburst Avenue at the Government Center in Joshua Tree. And we're trying to do different topics each month. So it was code enforcement last month. This month will be special districts that will be there to address any community concerns. And so if you have anybody in your community, either within the city or on the outside, that would like to know more about special districts, or if you just want to come say hey and learn more, we will be there from 4:30 to 6 on the 29th. So happy to take any questions and answers on the storm response, which has really been top of mind for us lately, on preparedness, messaging to our communities that while we don't normally have blizzards and earthquakes here, I can't emphasize enough the need to be prepared when that happens.
You guys, the sheriff department did a great job with this, help obviously the county with our marijuana extractions. Have they seen any of it coming back? Has it gotten to your level yet where they've told you we're going to have to do it again?
So we have 2 marijuana enforcement task force teams that came out of Operation Hammer Strike that will be permanent now. When Operation Hammer Strike went into effect, it was the teams, they pulled 5-ish teams, and what they did was they grabbed personnel from each station to make up the teams, and then that left a vacancy in those stations, and it created a hardship for some of our other areas that we serve. And so what we really found was the best way to do, and then you have to train those people to come in and on the specific operation of Hammer Strike. So the best way to do it was to backfill those spots in the stations and then assign permanent personnel to so that the actual task force and the name of it is no more, but there are permanent teams in place that serve that. And there is a growing season, and so we're coming into growing season, so we do start to see more than that. So we have an email and a hotline where it's reported. I get emails back instantly when folks send them to me, and I send them and they say, hey, we're adding them to the spreadsheet, or we've already rated it, you're just seeing the aftermath of it. County cannot rate it and do anything. We know when they're starting to go up. You can see the illegal grading that oftentimes takes place, the hoop houses and the tarps that go over the 2x4s and the structures of PVC pipes. But unless there's plants in the ground, there's nothing that really can be done until the plants are in the ground.
All right, well, thank you for keeping that up. And
yeah, absolutely.
Also, thank you for the wastewater money. That really helped a lot. Thank you.
You just have to spend it quickly.
Oh, no. Well, we're talking about it tonight, so we're
Good.
spending it.
Anybody else?
And Mayor, just to underscore that, Chairwoman Rowe, the Board of Supervisors allocated, you and your colleagues supported Operation Hammer Strike to the tune of what, $10 million, I think?
So there was $10 million that went into a community concerns bucket. And community concerns, so it depends on which supervisor you ask. It could be illegal food vendors, it could be illegal truck parking, or it could be illegal cannabis. And so it is money that comes out of our general fund. We often hear times, what do you do with our transient occupancy tax? Our TOT tax goes into our general fund, and that it is repurposed for things like this, where we can pivot pretty easily. Hammer Strike was a fantastic, probably one of the fastest things I've ever seen stood up, where the board authorizes the community identifies the need, the board authorizes the expenditure, and then the sheriff's department executes in that operation. And so that community cares bucket is meant to address those issues that are unique to our different supervisorial districts. Everybody's very respectful of the respective needs. I have some illegal food vending in other parts of the county, down in the Mentone area in particular. I don't have illegal truck parking, although maybe a little bit in DeVore as you're going up the 215, the pass. So everybody tries to allocate those resources to where they need them and then sustain them. So the board's been very supportive in that.
Well, thank you very much, and I do want to say thank you for the assistance with our sewer system, and just keep us in mind. You know, we'll be asking for more.
I tell you what, Frank has not lost my phone number. No, it's my pleasure to serve you, and absolutely, anything you need, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council comments and reports of meetings attended. Start with you. Nothing? Okay. Dan?
Okay, just a quick note for transparency. Obviously, the softball team earned some money. That's money that's earned. I'm not paid from out of that. I am paid from the MUSD. So I have nothing. I don't get any of that money. So I'm just making sure for transparency's sake. Also, I went to the Greg Mendoza's plant. He's our planning commissioner who passed away. I went to his service and spoke on about the council and just told him what a great job he did and helped us. And there was a lot of people there. And I put my notes down to thank the county, Chairperson Rowe, for her contribution to our sewer project. And I actually was looking on my calendar. I didn't have any other meetings like that for those last 2 weeks. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a snow day this month. I couldn't make it down the hill to go to the SBCTA meeting on March 1st. So I didn't have any meetings, so I just want to thank Supervisor Rowe for coming up and giving us an update. That's great. We love to see you up here. And once again, thank you again for the money for the wastewater. And it is the first meeting in March, so I would like to wish everybody in Twentynine Palms a very happy birthday. And I would sing, but my throat kind of is a little rusty tonight, so happy birthday to everybody. Just kidding, I could sing.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Also had no meetings. Want to thank the county and Supervisor Rowe once again for all the help and support you've been giving us, and wish my daughter a happy 12th birthday. That's all I have.
All right. Well, I had no meetings either, I don't think. Did I?
Meetings?
I don't remember. But anyway, and I do want to wish my sister a happy birthday this month. And I think that's it, right? You said you didn't have
Oh,
nothing.
you don't- okay.
Yeah, I don't have any announcements, but I also want to thank Chairwoman Rowe for coming and speaking and presenting. I'm very interested in that workforce development program that the county's initiating. Thank you.
Okay, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately by the city council. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on consent calendar items prior to the city council action. So, anybody want to remove any one of the consent calendar items? Number 8. Okay. So before I get a motion, I could just have them speak, right? Okay, so we got a couple people want to comment on number 8. I got Mr. Andy Watson. Yes.
Ladies, gentlemen, and council members, thank you. My name is Andy Watson. I live in the Desert Knoll Housing Development, and on behalf of our HOA, I want to express my gratitude to Mr. Lucchino and the City Council for pushing forth on plans to further the wastewater treatment project. As you are likely aware, back in 2008, both Desert Knoll and Turtle Rock were required to build, operate, and maintain wastewater treatment plants, aka package plants, as our communities surpassed the required thresholds for occupancy. So we were not allowed to put in home septic. The developers of both of our communities submitted and received approvals for the construction of these treatment plants. And as part of this, we were assigned thresholds for our effluent purity, which include, among other things, pH and nitrate levels. These regulations are governed by the Colorado Basin District of the California Water Resources Control Board. And as such, not only are we required to pay for the operation and regular maintenance of these plants, we're also required to pay annual fees, which started at approximately $5,500 a year, but now total over $12,000 per year. So while these fees are certainly high, at least at Desert Knoll, we have managed to get by at a current monthly cost of $240 per resident, nearly all of which goes toward operation and maintaining our treatment plants. And last year, Mr. Lucchino graciously offered to examine having a city department assume operations of our treatment plants, and for that, we thank you very much. It appeared at the time that the city may have been operating a similar plant at Project Phoenix, and so we were certainly interested at the time. Fast forward to last May, and we were dealt a major blow by the California Water Resources Control Board. These unelected state bureaucrats, who I might add also refused to answer my calls, my emails, or my letters, informed us that we were out of compliance on our testing after 14 years of operation, and that we would be required to hire a certified engineer to conduct a formal assessment of our plants. The assessment cost us a cool $16,000, and these recommended additions and modifications include a new lift station, spare motors, spare mixers, new lines, a formal permit modification, and repairs to our geoflow pond, all of which total over $75,000 and are required to be done no later than next year, May of 2024. So we are clearly in favor of the wastewater treatment plant. We see this as the only way out of our predicament. Our concern at this point is that the initial draft plans that I have seen from Carollo engineers show that both Desert Knoll and Turtle Rock currently lie outside of the draft phase 1 plan, and I'm asking if there's any means of getting a reprieve on this. I see 3 possible ways. Number 1, include both developments in the initial phase if possible. I understand that topography may not make this possible. Number 2, possible funding to assist with operations. Or number 3, if anyone from the city or council can advocate on our behalf to these bureaucrats at the State Water Resources Control Board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jeff Johnson.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Jeff Johnson. I live in Twentynine Palms. I'm a strong advocate for septic tanks that are well maintained. I feel this really important that the downtown dense areas will benefit from a sewer system, and the location of the plant is a good location is Utah Trail near the highway. There's a lot of aspects to septic tank systems, but they're a well-maintained septic tank system contributes water and continues a constant plume through all our neighborhoods to regenerate the water in our water tables, where a sewer system has its own inherent problems in returning the water, if it can at all, to the water table, where septic systems throughout the community have continued for decades to contribute water more than rain or any other way to get water back into our aquifer. Where would I? The county doesn't really pay attention to our septic tanks, and there's a lot of unsupervised septic systems, and there may be a problem with cesspools and poorly maintained septic systems. And I feel that the county should step back from pretending to be in control of our septic systems, and the city should create a septic tank maintenance department where we protect our water table by seeing that there's no poorly maintained systems. It's really important that that septic systems are seen as a beneficial to our water tables. The sewer system will take the water to one location, and how it's used is a big question in my mind. What can be done with it? I think the location over there by Utah Trail and the highway is a good one, because I think that that the water should be used on Lucky Park. Curiously, I drive by Lucky Park almost every day, and I see water running down the drain, as if they think that their aquifer is not our aquifer.
That's 3 minutes, sir.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bringing it back to council. Looking for a motion.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Klink,
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Okay.
And
No
you-
public-
and-
Oh,
and
sorry.
can I, did you just tell him you would get in contact with, okay, so I was gonna mention that.
Discussing potential action items. Strategic planning guidance document.
Okay, we had the same issue last meeting. I don't know why this is doing this, but bear with me for a second here. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item in front of you this evening, make it a little bigger. The item that we have in front of you this evening is our strategic planning guidance document. So as the council will recall, back in, I think it was late January, as we do every other year with a new 5-member council, we go through a process of identifying what the priorities are for the council over the next 2 years. Some of these priorities could be short-term, some of these priorities could be long-term, some of these priorities could be policy, some of them could be projects. So we went through a 2-day process of identifying what the top issues of the council were. And so what I like to do is to come back after we have that as a guidance document as we plan our 2-year budgets and even living on thereafter, so staff knows and continues to work on what the priorities are of the council. So this year, as we went through them in no particular order, the council has given policy direction from a priority perspective, a new shelter, animal control facility, the addition, and I'll talk about each one of these briefly and kind of where we're at as staff has started working on them as we got this direction, and two, looking for clarifications if there are some based on these topics. So new shelter, animal control. So staff is working through that process, working with the animal control staff, trying to figure out through the process of band-aiding, if you will, the current shelter, working on the design plans for the ultimate build, and then looking at that debt finance and revenue augmentation that we can build that. As mentioned, plus or minus, a new shelter is probably about $10 million. So it's not going to be a cheap proposition. So we're going through that as we speak. The new detective, it's on the was on the consent calendar this evening that you approved. It'll be going on to ultimately get Chairwoman Rao's signature from the county so we can start moving so the captain can identify a deputy that can be promoted for that job. So that is moving forward, and the reason for that is the workload, the caseload of the current only one detective that we currently have in place. Ball field lights. As we discussed, we have old wooden poles in our Lucky Park. They're not LED lights, so staff is working through that process as well. We contacted a debt provider. Council allocated already in prior budget years $1 million for that, but the cost of this is in the neighborhood of almost $2 million. So we're looking to get some debt financing for the delta between the $1 million and $2 million that our budget will be able to absorb, and there will be cost savings associated with it, not in total, but in energy savings because it'll be LED lights. Theater 29 expansion, we've been reaching out. So currently the theater has 90 seats, and it needs to go to 150 as designed as part of Pioneer Park's improvement plan, but council gave direction, just wanted to kind of focus in on Theater 29. So I reached out to Mitham, who did some conceptual framework of Theater 29 to get to construction drawings, and ultimately that would be another one of those revenue augmentations that we would need. Housing and Homeless Advisory Committee. So council giving these two topics of importance to the council and the community, wanted to have some further vetting of, where we go. So what I have started to do, because obviously committees, new people is always a tough, in a smaller community to stand up. So we're going to utilize staff and with concurrence of the council. We met with Planning Commission last week, and they wanted to take this on. They felt that they were a good body to be able to take it on with adding 2 people, maybe one person from the real estate profession that could add some insight to this, then another person from homeless advocacy group. Astrid obviously is somewhat of a natural for that. To advise the council in those 2 arenas. So we're moving forward on setting that up, and would, definitely like to get some thoughts on that as far as who and how that committee members get established. Events, through that process, we heard at the meeting of several entities that wanted to do events, from an art perspective, from a music perspective, from many different aspects of events. So what we did is we consolidated it into one strategic priority, which is events, utilizing both our current organizations within the city, and potentially there could be some new organizations that come about that. IT improvements, a never-ending world that we're in of trying to get efficiency through technology, and deploying more of this, which needs management and expertise. So we continue to look at this as efficiency improvements, IT. Kind of ducktails off of the new shelter and animal control, and obviously the theater expansion, debt financing, and revenue augmentation. Those 2 aren't items that you could pay as you go, which a lot of our capital projects are. These, giving the magnitude of them, need those strategies. Then finally, listening to Chairwoman Rowe, giving the world that we went through with COVID, a certain focus, with emergency management and being prepared for if and when, more so when, those events will happen. So those are what the staff had heard those 2 days. We are going to use this as a guidance documents as we plan our budgets, and happy to get staff or get council feedback, comments, concerns, then ultimately, hopefully, approving this.
Any questions? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Don't have no green slips. Okay, bring it back.
Can I say one thing? The first comment you made about the new shelter animal control, I didn't like. Not band-aiding, or liking to band-aid the way for the shelter. They've already been through the band-aiding process. This shelter needs to be done. We're gonna sooner or later have homeless dogs because we're not gonna have any space for them to be taken care of too. So I think the animals and the homeless should be pretty close to number one to take care of, and then go on from there.
And I apologize, just to make sure I was clear in my comment. So Band-aiding for the 2 years that we're going through, but building a new shelter. So the new shelter is going to be a new shelter, not a Band-aided one. So it's going to take us, just in laying out the time frame to now to getting construction documents and hopefully getting revenue augmentation. You know, the next general election is November 2020. We're at 3/24. So ideally speaking, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be ready for construction beginning January of 2025. And it'll be at least a 1-year build, we believe. So that's, you know, basically, so January 2026, it'll be ready. And we're in 23 right now. So we've got to figure out from a staff perspective, and obviously communicate that with the council, how do we get from now to then with what we currently have, and trying to keep it, you know, in decent shape during that time frame. So probably a poor choice of words, maybe Band-aiding, I apologize, but that's what we're kind of working through that time frame.
Good. Okay, looking for a motion.
Can I say something real quick, though?
Okay.
Thank you. I think the Housing and Community Development Committee is very important. I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Klink, that the shelter and homelessness should be two priorities. I think that it would be very important that we identify the 2 additional members to join that committee, in addition to the 5-member Planning Commission. And I see it as an extension of the Planning Commission, so I think it should be the same subcommittee that went through the the commissioners' applications to also go through the new housing and community development applications.
And is that the will of the council? Because, you know, as we kind of go through that, again, it's germane to this topic. So if that's, you know, what your will is, we can kind of, you know, move towards that objective.
Well,
See how many people apply for it, but yeah, I guess that'd be fine with me.
okay,
Might take longer.
Staff has direction.
okay. So we don't need to vote on?
No, you know, this is a policy document. I, you know, like to have a motion on it, please.
Okay, so looking for a motion.
I'll move the strategic planning guidance document.
Second.
I'll
Sorry.
Third.
Roll call.
Councilmember Klink. Aye. Councilmember Scott.
Aye.
Councilmember Mintz.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Buildering.
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Okay. Number 10, budget adjustment request for Public Arts Advisory Committee, PAC.
So, Mr. Mayor, the Public Arts Advisory Committee is asking for a budget augment. And we do have the chair and a couple of members of the PAC here tonight to further answer questions. In short, what they're looking at doing is expanding the amount of money that they give out in grants from 6,000 to 10,000. So it's not just going to be youth in the arts; it'll be other arts programming that people may come in and apply for. Other uses for these monies would be to do an assessment of the public art outside of murals that are in the city that the city owns. Want to make sure that, and then prioritize if there's any maintenance due that is necessary for these public arts. And there would be some additional monies set aside for a grant, to hire a grant writer to pursue the grant. I do want to make a quick correction. It's not the Common Core grant, it's the Creative Core grant that is issued by the state. That's my fault. And also to hire an assistant for the PAC to help out with some of their daily duties and also maintain budgets and things like that. So, like I said, we do have the chairman of the PAC here. If you have any particular questions on the budget request.
Any questions?
Does the PAC have any money in their budget right now for this year?
So I actually have it's in the Excel spreadsheet at the bottom. There you go. Okay.
Just want everybody to see it.
Okay, so what you see there in green was the original budget and the year to date. So typically they have a $15,000 budget. There have been some monies spent, and then we have then with the additional, it's not quite 6, it's 5,000 and some odd change. So with the $5,844, it brings it up to 21,000. So there are some things that they have programmed to spend money on, which haven't been spent yet, but they are planning on spending these monies.
Any more questions?
Just for this year, right?
Yes, for this fiscal year.
That is correct, just until the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, I don't have no green slips. No comments from the public. Okay, bring it back. Council.
Well, it's, obviously, we just saw what our strategic plan and all the things that we have on there, and I just think we have a lot on our plate, and I'm not sure if I can go forward with any more funding for that.
This is actually a part of our strategic plan. We want to fund arts and events. That's part of our strategic plan.
Any more comments?
I'm kind of confused here. So, Cindy, how much do you have in your budget right now? And are you asking for money now until July 1st?
Yeah, it's now until July 1st. As you know, the PAC did a lot, did what a lot of the prior PAC was active in the way they were active, but in fact, they didn't spend much of their budget because they weren't doing that much. They were doing the visitor center exhibitions, and that's about it. We have taken on a lot more. We feel, because of strategic planning and because of the demand in the community for more events, that we should augment our youth in the arts program. So actually the bulk of the request is to augment the youth in the arts program with an additional $4,000 earmarked towards funding community events by application. So we would let people know that we are putting out grants for the funding of community arts events, and they would then apply to us, and then we would grant them money to produce those events. So that's $4 of the $6,000, and really the other two primarily is to hire the grant writer, because the other money is kind of set aside. So for instance, one of the challenges we have is Vicki Waite, who's been the assistant for the PAC for some time, has been wanting to retire. We've asked her to stay because there have been so many changes to the PAC that we feel that consistency is important. But, poor Vicki, she's been so underpaid. She was being paid $200 a month regardless of how many hours she spent. It just wasn't fair. So we've, and plus she wants to retire, so we may have to hire someone else. Even, she's just not sure what she's doing. So we wanted to be able to say 5 hours a week at $30 an hour seemed like a fair amount of time, given the amount of social media we're doing, given that there are grants that need to be processed and administered, there's budgets, there's actual work that we're doing. We've upped our social media presence somewhat because there are grants that are available to our arts community that we want to make sure the arts community actually knows about. So in addition to talking about our meetings and talking about the various things the PAC is doing in the city, we're also promoting things like the Creative Corps grant. We're promoting things like the micro grants that are available from the county, promoting things like the California Arts Council individual artist grants. So there's all of that is going on as well, which the prior PAC was not doing. I can't remember what else. Let me see. Oh, so the other challenge that we have that hasn't been dealt with for a while is there are these 13 works that are actually owned by the city. They're on city property. And so the idea was to hire a conservator. We got a great price of under $3,000 for a museum conservator to assess the 13 works and let us know what needs to be maintained and to prioritize them for us to say, basically, well, these 3 works are in great shape. You don't have to deal with them for 5 years. This work is a mess. You're going to have to deal with that one right away. And these others, to basically prioritize maintenance on the public art that's in the city collection for us, which I don't think has been done. Yeah, that's about the gist of it. So yeah, we haven't spent much, but we have things that are earmarked to be spent.
For this fiscal year?
For this fiscal year. Yeah, because of course if we don't spend it, it comes back to you guys. It comes back to the city. It's a use it or lose it budget.
I thought you guys had somebody on the PAC that knew how to write grants.
We're all volunteers. It's a lot of time to write a grant. That is 20 hours at $100 an hour. Grant writers are paid $100 an hour. We can advise on the writing of the grant, but we can't actually write it ourselves because that's a paid gig, to be honest. And we're already volunteering, quite frankly, quite a lot of time.
I do agree that, from my experience, it takes an entire team of well-paid people to do grants. And it's usually not something that happens overnight. It usually takes, it's about a 6-month process to do a grant, to do it right. But what I will say is that, my colleagues here are correct that we want to stay focused on the strategic plan. And I think that I'll speak for myself. I would like to see that the bulk of that money be used for arts-related events, because that is the strategic plan.
Yeah, well, $10,000 is 50, if our budget goes to 20, $10,000 would be 50% of our budget. In granting, going back to youth organizations in the city and anybody that might want to produce an arts event. So, does that answer the question, Councilman Scott?
Sorry, yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm either looking for a motion. And a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mintz,
No.
Councilmember Klink,
No.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Bildering,
Aye.
Mayor Wright.
No.
Not approved. 0-3-2. Right? 2. Yeah. I've never had that before. I don't know how to say it.
Okay, number 11, revised mission statement for the PAC.
I have that one as well. It's in the Word document on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Okay, so this is the mission statement that the PAC has voted on. I do have a slight correction, if you could scroll down just a little bit. From what you see there, there was a correction I need to make in the document with pertains to the number of members and the alternate. And what you see there is what we need to add to that. Basically, the PAC has 5 members with an option to go up to 7. In addition, we may have one alternate. The reason being, these artists are full-time artists and they have other commitments that may not be able to make meetings. So the idea here is we have an alternate who's ready to stand in just in case. And the major difference that you've seen between this version and the one before is it stresses the advisory role, not not an implied mandatory role that may have been implied unintentionally in the last version in February. So again, we've got the members of the PAC here. If you have any further questions.
Any questions for staff? Okay, to the audience, I don't have no green slips. Back to the council.
So when Councilmember Bellering and myself met with Cindy to discuss the getting the PAC going so they can do the grant writing, I was under the impression that we had the 5 members, but we made an alternate for Kate in case Valerie decided to leave, or she didn't make her 3 months, and then she'd be gone. So that has happened. So Kate is now a member,
Yes.
and I think that's the way it should be. No alternates. We don't have alternates to take our place if we have to go away. Planning Commission doesn't have an alternate. I have a job. I can't just leave my job to, as an alternate. It just doesn't seem right that that this one has to have an alternate when all the other committees are 5 members and councils. So that's how I am with that.
And I think we have to be very, specific, though. There is a difference between a commission. There's a difference between a commission, a committee, and the council. I don't necessarily see a problem with having alternates for committee members. I would draw the line at having alternates at commissioners and councilmen.
Well, my only comment is the original mission statement that was worked on seemed to work for quite a few years, and I'm actually comfortable for the original mission statement.
Anybody else? I still have, like, I don't know, this number under section 4, number 1, it just don't read right to me. But that's just me.
I'm sorry, which change?
There's a change that we made that's not there. I just saw it.
Okay, what do we need to
And
do?
I don't know if it will help, but it was, sorry. Let me see if I can find it. It's not supposed to say, I don't know why it's not there. Yeah, it's be the advisory body, but it's not, I mean, there's several changes that aren't here. Okay, it's supposed to be the advisory body in envisioning city government, not the whole city government initiated literary, visual, and performing art projects. You guys help me out here, okay? I can't recall what they were. Yeah, city initiated, city government, to make it clear that we're just talking about things that are initiated within the city, and that we're being an advisory body. Visual, literary, performing art projects, work with the city manager, community development director in determining appropriate art project budgets and locations, and to serve as the selection panel for all city government initiated arts programming. Because arts project and events is specifically the line that Councilman Mintz called out that he had a problem with. And so I think we changed that to say city government initiated arts. I think it maybe it was installations and programming or something. I don't remember exactly what we said, but we were trying to make it clear that it wasn't arts projects and all events, which was not the intention. It was arts projects and arts events. And we had also, I also inserted the word culture there, cultural arts events, in order to distinguish it from recreational arts events, because recreational arts events are the provenance of the department's, the Parks and Rec department, whereas our provenance is cultural arts events. So actually there's a bit of language that's missing. Let me see if I have a copy of it with me.
I'll make copies as soon as you find it.
Well, I need to find, I'm sorry, council, I had a very busy week, and I just assumed that the mission attached was the mission that we had approved. I'm trying to think of where I have it. Can we,
So-
may I make a suggestion? Can we
Kick it back.
I guess we could take it back, but I hate to do that. Can you go on to another topic and give me a few minutes to go find it?
This is the last one.
Oh, it's the last item. Oh, no.
Can you kick it back?
I mean, taking it back's not gonna hold up any grants or anything like that, right? We already solved all those type of issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so-
true. Let's just take it back. Can we just put it back on the next agenda? I
Yes.
don't understand why the changes aren't there.
No, yeah, we'll just do that. So we
I'm
have to-
sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
I should have reviewed it before today. I didn't understand.
And
it.
my
I
apologies
didn't-
too if I uploaded the wrong one, so
Yeah, I think
we'll
you
get it
uploaded
fixed.
the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Cindy, can I just say something? Councilmember Mintz, I think that the prior mission for the committee, the idea of arts was much more restricted. It was really just the visual arts, the sculpture and the murals. And the idea of arts has changed. And I think all of you, talking to all of you, you really are interested in events, arts, cultural events, dance, poetry readings, theater, you know, all the other things that are really part of the pure purview of cultural and arts. And I think that's really why we wanted to change the mission. And also because the prior PAC was forgetting about the city-owned artworks that have never been maintained. And that's really stressing us out because those things, if they aren't maintained, they'll fall apart and it could be dangerous. You know, especially sculpture that could fall over, hurt somebody, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we really do need to start assessing those artworks which were purchased by the city by the previous PAC. So that's some of the changes. Does that sort of make sense?
Well, yes, it does, but if you if you read their mission statement, they can, that language, what you just said, could be incorporated into this. You can do the same thing by reading this. And you're saying it's restricted, but it is restricted to just that. I mean, I just feel that this went from a half a page mission statement to 4 pages.
So
And,
you'd like to see it simplified?
well, yeah, I would, again, like I said in the last meeting, I would not be able to vote on the way this is written now. That's just the way I feel.
It's about a page and a half, but the first part of it is actually a reiteration of how the arts exist in the general plan. So if you go to the top.
Well, we're gonna bring it back, so we
Yeah,
no
we
need
are
to
back, but I
discuss.
just wanted to point out that the first one, that's actually from the general plan.
Okay,
Thanks.
so we're gonna bring it back.
Yeah, we'll bring it back. Let's bring it back.
We'll bring it back to the next city council.
Okay. Yeah. Future council initiated items, anybody? Everybody good?
You know, I think that, no, I'll pass right now.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, Frank, I've been noticing a lot of shopping carts around again. Is there an update on that, or what's going on?
Yeah, so so I need to follow up with Stater Brothers. So Stater Brothers, when Grocery Outlet went in, all of their carts are geo-fenced. So you can't leave the parking lots. It'll actually lock once it goes past that geo-fence, and it'll lock. You can't do it. Stater Brothers, at the same time, and actually I think that probably all the council members were at the grand opening at that time, and if you saw Stater Brothers there, they were inspecting some things, They were supposed to, at that time, have theirs in place as well. They're the biggest culprits, because people were taking their groceries to home or whatever and then leaving it wherever. I need to follow up on that. We did, when it was proposed by the council, we brought all the vendors together and talked to them about council was having this conversation and they were going to regulate it themselves. But I need to follow up on that because you're seeing them in the community.
Yeah, right. You can't even get it out the store. I tried.
Oh, yeah, you can.
You got to pick it up.
Well, and that's one of the,
You got to tip it back.
and that's one of the things that a lot of the business owners say. It's a big expense for them. They don't want them to leave. They're about $500, so yeah, they're trying to keep them on their property as well.
Yeah.
Frank, I have a question. Committee members, they're not paid.
Correct.
Commissioners are paid.
Yeah, planning commissioners are paid, and obviously council, yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a future future agenda item request that we revisit paying or exploring or having a discussion around paying committee members.
Okay.
Yeah, so lack of a second, it won't fall on the list. That's what I'm hearing. So.
Okay.
Well, I said that because, I mean, people are saying that, we can't take off time, but we're paid. And they're asking for help, and I think they need to be paid.
Okay. Public comments. This is time for the public to address the city council on issues within the jurisdiction of the city council that are not on this agenda. All comments are to be directed to the city council and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during their comments. There's a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you haven't already done so, please fill out name and address slips and give them to the city clerk. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the item on the agenda. Mallard. Sorry if I got it wrong.
Yeah, I'm not on the agenda, obviously, but I'd like to speak about the tennis court situation in 29 Palms. And some of you may be aware of it, but years ago at Lucky Park, they had 2 lighted tennis courts, which was great. I'm not sure what year they converted, like early 90s, they converted them to basketball courts. Well, unfortunately, there's no tennis courts in 29 Palms at this time. I'd like to say just a few words about that if I could. I would like to get those basketball courts converted back to tennis courts because the new gym has nice courts now. Now that being said, the Park and Rec does the best they can over there. They will set the volleyball nets down for you 2 to 4:30 on Thursday. Now what if that's, you can't play on 2 to 4:30 Thursday. And plus the lines are ridiculous. And they're trying, but it's just inadequate. Anyway, I have a few other comments to make. The high school, for example, you can't play there during school hours, you know, security. And I think on weekends they're locked up. You can't even go there to play. There's supposed to be a new park built down here with California state funds or grants. Well, that's nice, but as you know, every city in the state of California is competing for those grants. Will Twentynine Palms get a grant? They could. When will that be? A year from now? 2, 5? Never? We don't know. And how do you play between then? You can't. The other thing, pickleball, I play both. Tennis is more my game. I play pickleball, as do others. It's the fastest growing sport in America. Now, the court's a little bit smaller, but you can still have, say, the white lines for the tennis courts and say you put yellow for pickleball. The net's a tad shorter, I think, but you know what? We can live with that. It's not the end of the world. Now, a new tennis court, I'm not exactly sure what it costs. Around $100,000 each. These things are not cheap anymore. You can convert those basketball courts back to tennis courts for probably $2,000. Just cut down those goal posts, put them to net posts. You got the fence, you got the light, it's all there. Last but not least, it's not just me. I'm older. I'm pretty much finished, but I still play. But the kids, they could use it, and young adults. And you know, pickleball is going fast, and it'd be a good sport. You need various sports in 20. You have quite a few sports, but 2 more would be good for the whole city, not just for me. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, at our last council meeting, you know, we had that CDBG update and direction from council, and our courts at Lucky Park, 2 of which are going to be converted to pickleball courts. So we will have pickleball courts the latter part, probably early part of next year, but we're in the process of converting those.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah.
Miss Anna Stump.
Hi again. I just wanted to clarify the grant writing process. Having written just recently a California Arts Council grant for myself, it took weeks. And I just want to make sure that we understand that because we are a committee and we're unpaid, that we will be hiring a specific grant writer. And when we had the Arts Council, the county Arts Connection come and talk with us, and it's a very specific language that needs to be used because these grants, this big grant that we're trying to bring to the city requires this really specific language. And so I just want to clarify and ask if you have any questions, because we wouldn't be writing the grant. Is that clear? Is that?
Yeah, but we can't discuss that now. We already passed that agenda item.
Okay.
Okay. No more green slips. Thank you for the information, though. Okay, tonight I would like to adjourn this meeting in honor of Mr. George. Am I? Oh, my bad.
I'm sure you guys won't
Okay.
be upset about that, right?
My bad. All right. City manager update.
Almost got out of here. So, I'll be quick. I say that every time. So, the Channel Trail, we hit some hiccups on that as we closing out that project. There were some retaining wall issues on the what's the college side, so the south side of the trail there. So it should be done this month of March, maybe bleeding over to the month of April. But all we have left is this retaining wall issue. So it should be delivered here soon to the community. As the council is aware, I think Jennifer Cusack has left Southern California Edison, and they finally had a replacement. So hopefully soon we'll be able to bring, I think she's reached out to maybe meet with the mayor, but make sure she meets with everybody to get introduced to the government relations person with Edison. April 1st, I know I've emailed the council, but just from a public perspective, the Hilltoppers annual event in the city, April 1st, a great attended event. They have, on average, I guess, 5,000 people there. So it's great for, the city and those coming to the community and buying things and going to the event, but even for our locals going to the event. So they met with me this week, and they want to do more things here. They like the hospitality that the city gives them. They like to have the mayor and the council there for 7 a.m. to Mac. I think you get to shoot off a gun and get the bikes going. So, but they do want to do more events, and they've been talking about that for a while now. And I think they've got hopefully some momentum to add another one in the year. It's a one park, and be shamed to only use it one time. So, then finally, kind of piggybacking off of kind of wastewater, just in conclusion. So this month, I know council approved that on the consent calendar this evening, which is the wastewater treatment side of the project. So we got the pipes, we got the treatment plant, we got the environmental, all of it is converging together. This month, a couple things that will be going on, one of which will be submitting our grant application to the state. Met last week with the Twentynine Palms Band of Mission Indians. They are very excited and interested to be part of this, to work together with the city, which I think raises the awareness from the state on the project, which is a good thing. And also, too, we'll be beginning outreach. Last meeting, the council approved outreach contract. So we'll be starting to, because the number one question that people will ask is how much, right? That's the number one thing. So we will be bringing it to the council, asking for an advisory committee, that buffer between you and the community to kind of vet the project. So we'll be looking for that, from the council to appoint a member of the community, that 5 members to be sitting on that advisory board. So that's all of my updates. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Yeah, what date? Okay, I want to remind everybody, because of inclement weather we had when we did our first grilling with the mayor, we're going to do another one this month on March 23rd, right here in Veterans Park. So I don't know what time. What time am I supposed to be here? 4:30 to 6. Okay, so March 23rd, right here, Veterans Park, grilling with the mayor. We're going to have a good time, all right? All right. So now, we adjourn the meeting in honor of Mr. George Gibbs. Meeting's adjourned.
So I asked the mayor, he, personal friend of mine, actually, former resident